Okay, patience means seeing that the problem is from Allah, number one, and processing it through Allah. So you see it's from Allah, okay? So how does it often mean stop, right? So there's a line, for example, in Ramadan, and there's 200 people who want to eat, and I'm rushing ahead of the queue, I'm jumping the line, and somebody says, please be patient, meaning understand that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala put all of these people here, that there's a limited amount of food and there's a limited amount of people who can be served. So process it through Allah, meaning go to the back of the line. Okay? So it's a negative, you don't do something, right? I'm talking to the doctor, and the doctor says, listen, Farid, I'm sorry, I understand you're in a difficult situation, but you see, there's a bunch of other people, this guy's bleeding, this person's had a concussion. You have to be patient, meaning wait. What does waiting in this situation? It means understand that this is from Allah and process it properly, sit and don't do anything. But there's other times when patience doesn't mean not doing something, right? So we mentioned, for example, in marriage, I understand that this difficulty in my marriage is coming from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So it doesn't mean don't do anything. It means process it in the right way. So you're going to get angry. Don't get angry. You're going to shout. Don't shout. You're going to divorce her. Don't divorce her. But process it properly. Sit down. Say, where is the communication problem here? What is misunderstood? How have I been misunderstood? How is it that I'm speaking in the wrong way? Right? What is it that she doesn't understand? I don't understand. Right? So somebody, for example, who says, oh, my wife tried to kill me. That's what the story was last week. It's like, is there a reason why she tried to kill you? Right? So, for example, I don't know. There's all sorts of things that could have happened. And so you can just imagine the person just sitting there saying nothing. And his wife's like, I'm going to kill you because you don't speak. Right? Right? It's too much like you don't say anything. He's just there. I'm with Allah. Bro, you're not with Allah because you're not doing what Allah wants you to do. She needs to talk, right? Half the women, you just need to repeat the same things, right? My brother said this, quite a funny individual, my brother sometimes, but he said, he worked in the MSA, and he said he noticed with the sisters in the MSA, if you just let them say what they want to say, then that's all they want to do. Meaning, here's a sister, she wants to say that she thinks that money should be spent on this. So he was in charge of the money, and he would say yes or no, or at least say if there was enough money. So the sister's like, no, but this is really, really important that the sisters don't have this and this and this and this and this. So all that needed to happen is for them to be allowed to say it. They don't actually need to have it, right? So the sister saying, can I please, so I need to express something. All she needs to do is say what she wants to say, and you need to listen, and that's all. And as a man, you're like, well, what would be the point in you saying something if I'm not going to do it? So therefore, I'm not going to listen, right? So Sat wants to talk to me about something, and I say, well, I'm not going to do it, so therefore I don't need to listen. So and then he's just offended. Say, why is he offended? Right? That's logical as a man, right? If I can't, if it's not practical, why will you tell me? Yeah, but she's not a man. So she's very upset because she's not allowed to voice her problems. She's very upset that, for example, the finances have forced you to do something very difficult. And you're like, why are you complaining about finances? We have already gone through the accounts. Error. Like, that's not how you speak to your wife, is it? So there's a difference between patience, meaning I see not doing something, as opposed to processing it in the right way, processing the situation in the right way. What is Allah asking me to do in this situation? That's called sabr. Sabr doesn't mean you don't go to a doctor, right? Sabr doesn't mean you don't take your child to the ER, right? Sabr means I see this is coming from Allah, and you process it in the right way, right? What does Allah want me to do, right? And it could be marriage counseling, it could be changing this, it could be changing that, it could be divorce. It's possible. There could be a situation where this is actually what Allah wants you to do. It's actually better for everybody, right? But that's not lack of patience. Lack of patience is I didn't see it from Allah, or I didn't process it in the right way. I didn't do what Allah wanted me to do, right? So that makes sense. So we had the beautiful story. Um, We had the story last week about the woman who burnt the books of Qadi Iyad, right? Those of you who listened to that story. And I want to touch upon something in it that was important. So if we remind ourselves of the story, Qadi Iyad, he was one of these great fuqaha and muhaddithin and of Muslim Spain. And he wrote this essay. He wrote this small book, and he gave it to somebody. He said, please review it. This is my manuscript. This is my one copy. Please review it and tell me anything that any objections you have to it, anything that's wrong, you know. So he said, Sheikh, inshallah, I'll do that, and I'll let you know tomorrow. So, and then the Sheikh said, please, I only have one copy. This is my one copy. So please look after it. He says, fine. So he took it home, and the whole night he is reviewing this essay and writing his notes on it and objections and this and that. And his wife is very upset because she's not paying any attention to her. His wife is very upset because he's not paying any attention to her. In the morning, he goes to teach a class in the masjid and maybe some other classes. At dhuhr, he comes back home and he can smell there's something cooking in the house. It's a very different kind of smell. It's a very strange smell. And so he's like, oh, what have you cooked today? She says, oh, you'll find out. And then they look on the plate. It's the piece of paper, the essay that he wrote. She had burnt it. So Qadi Iyad, this is like one of the greatest scholars in history. He had one copy of this book, and she had burnt the book. Right? It's like burning your passport. Right? Imagine that, your wife burning your passport. So she said, we're flying today. She said, no, we're not. And then you come back. She says, I'm going to go and get something, and we're going to leave in 2 hours. And you come back and she's burned your passport. So if your wife has ever burned your passport, remember this story. And your passport can be replaced, right? Your passport can be replaced, but that manuscript cannot be replaced. Okay, so now we spoke about it. So the point is, be patient with your wife, and crazy things happen. Crazier things that you imagine have happened, basically. Most of the time, crazier things than have happened to you have both happened to scholars and ulama and anbiya. Okay, that's important to understand. The second thing then is, now the sheikh, when he found out that she had burnt it, he starts writing as many things down in his head that he can remember. Right? And he goes and gives it to Qadi Iyad and says, here you go, sheikh. And he says, and he asked the sheikh, but he didn't tell the sheikh that it was burnt. He says, sheikh, is anything missing? And the sheikh was like, no, nothing's missing. So what happened? He processed it in the right way. He dealt with it in the right way. He tried his best to correct the problem. He went to the sheikh, and basically, as a miracle, what he had remembered of the text itself and his objections were everything that the sheikh needed to know, and the sheikh was very happy. So here's the issue. If you process something in the right way, will miracles happen? The answer is yes. If you thank Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for something, will miracles happen? The answer is yes. Okay, what about the opposite? You're on your way to the airport. Your wife says something ridiculous that doesn't make any sense, right? And is rude. And you blow up, right? Do you think the travel is going to be easy? No. Allah is going to intentionally make your travel difficult to show you what you're doing wrong. Just like we saw in the beginning, whenever your life is always a mirror of your inward. And vice versa. She forgot her passport. She forgot the kid's passport. You forgot your passport, and then she was very rude to you. And then you blew up in the car, right? Do you think it's going to work out? No. But if you process things in the right way, everything always works out. If you process things in the right way, everything always works out. That's the system, right? It's a system. It's like a pathway, right? It's like a maze. Allah has given us the maze. So you eat, you say, Alhamdulillah. There's no food, you're patient. You always get to the next level. That's how you process things, right? So, this is how it works. Wallahu a'lam. And you have, just an example of something that happened to me yesterday. So I was supposed to be here 24 hours ago, right? I was supposed to be giving this class yesterday. I went to Chicago and I came back, and my return flight was a very strange flight. I was flying from Chicago to Atlanta back to San Francisco, which is kind of the opposite way. I specifically chose this flight because I wanted to be here to teach a class yesterday evening, right? The day before, Monday evening, which I wasn't able to do. Anyhow, things happened in Atlanta, Georgia, and I ended up having to stay another day. So when that thing happened, how do you process? Did I complain? Yes. Did I try and get on another flight? Yes. Did I get angry? So what I could have done, for example, is like literally my plane is outside and they just closed the door, even though I'm already registered. So it doesn't make any sense why they close the door on me. So I could have tried to open it, right? It says I could have tried to open it. What would happen if I try to open the door? I might get arrested, right? So when you react in the wrong way, it's not going to work, right? It's not going to work. If I start shouting at this lady, then basically it was, I don't know if you heard of Frontier. You heard of Frontier? They're really bad, right? Has it had problems with Frontier?
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's like, I didn't know, right? It's the first time it was United and the return was partially Frontier. It's like, now I know my lesson. Alhamdulillah, Rabbil Alameen, right? But it's like really bad service, right? Everything's just really bad and it's always falling apart and whatever. So Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen, but you process it the right way. Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen, call one brother up, someone else within an hour or two, someone's picking me up and I'm staying at someone's house and I can teach my class in the evening and I went and visited another masjid and mashallah lots of tulab and shuyukh there and I gave a class and it's very useful, right? So process things in the right way and everything will work out. Process things in the wrong way, it won't work out, right? Be patient. But did I not complain? I complained and I'm going to complain again. I'm going to try and get my money back because it's like, this is ridiculous. But that's not lack of patience. Lack of patience would be, I start shouting at this lady who is herself, she's out of her head because it's a ridiculous situation, right? Saad goes on holiday, leaves one staff member in Falafel Corner, and I'm ticked off who can't speak English at all, and I'm angry with him. What's the point? Right? What's the point in shouting at the staff member? You got my order wrong. What's the point? It's not useful. You go there and you say, no, I actually ordered this. Could you please do this? When will it be ready? In 2 hours. Okay, thank you very much. There's no point shouting at somebody who can't help you, right? Because you see that they just cut the costs on every single thing. So they're late here and they have this problem and that problem. The system's down and she doesn't know what she's doing and she can't help and, right? So you still push, right? But you do it. This is from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. This is just a game, right? It's just a game that we're playing, which is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants you to defend your money, look after situations as best as you can, but you don't need to change inside. Your heart shouldn't change whether you get on a flight or not, or this or that is irrelevant, right? So process things in the right way and miracles will happen. Okay, so we have another story, inshallah. So now we have a book. There's a very important book, inshallah. I believe it's in English, inshallah, should be taught in this masjid, which is, it says, قال الشيخ Salman ibn Sheikh al-Allama Abdul Fattah Abu Ghudda. This is famous Sheikh Abdul Fattah Abu Ghudda, the great Hanafi Hadithin of Damascus. He has a book called قيمة الزمن عند العلماء, the value of time in the eyes of the ulama. And so I'll just talk about briefly. You have a conversation with your wife and you think this is the biggest waste of time ever. Like I've sat here for half an hour and we've gone nowhere. What was the point? Like you just think about like your marriage is a waste of time and these conversations are a waste of time. Is that true? It's not. It's not true at all. If you sit down and you have an argument in which you show akhlaq and you show compassion and you try your best, even if it doesn't really seem to go anywhere, that's not a waste of time because that's called ibadah. It's a different type of ibadah, right? When I went on Hajj, I found it very strange because Hajj, you move around a lot. You go here, you go there, you do this, you do that. It was very kind of like different, but that's also ibadah, right? So you don't say Hajj is not ibadah because I'm not being still. I know that when I pray, I'm still. But Hajj is also ibadah. So simply having an argument with somebody and doing it with akhlaq. I'm not saying you're always like this, you always do this, you are this, but rather you did this, changing the words, trying to be, not get angry, trying to be empathetic. I understand where you're coming from. I can see it, right? Trying to put yourself in her shoes, even if it feels like it's gone nowhere. Like the end of the discussion went nowhere. That's not a waste of time. What is a waste of time is having an argument where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala put you in a scenario where somebody insulted you or somebody said something that wasn't fair or you felt wronged, and then you got angry and you shouted. You wasted your own time. So life is too short to not have akhlaq. These are the only situations you have in life. This is it. Your life is only these things. You think you have 100 scenarios in your life, you actually have 36. And half of them are weird and strange, and you don't know what's going on. And you don't know the solution. And you don't know what to do. So you don't have the time or the luxury to mess up on those situations. Your son throws up all over you, and you see, I told you not to eat that candy. Was that a good thing to say at that time? At the time when he's eating the excessive candy, you should tell him, stop, you're going to get sick. But now he's throwing up all over you while he's throwing up and crying. Like, see, I told you why you shouldn't eat. Like, it's not a useful thing. You failed that test and you wasted that moment, right? So we have to understand that people think, oh, this is a waste of time. It's not a waste of time. You wasted the time. It is not a waste of time. You wasted the time. I hate America. You are America. You are America. You are one of these things that makes up America. America is this. Afghanistan is this. You are Afghanistan, right? I hate working at Falafel Corner. You are Falafel Corner. I hate this marriage. You are this marriage, right? This is you, right? And so people, they look at that, they see things as something that's other. This is your test right now. Like, this is part of your test. Don't fail it, right? The red light is part of your test. The IRS charging you too much and you have to deal with it as part of the test. So it's the prayer, the life is not praying 5 times a day and giving sadaqah. That's 1/10 of life. Life is, where's my keys? Well, don't lose them. I don't lose my keys. You lost the keys. And these discussions that happen as we're going in and out of the house and this and that, this is life. And so these are the times, don't waste those opportunities. When somebody's rude to you or they feel that you're rude to them and there's tension, and you calm the tension by showing akhlaq and being a good person. This is your life. Don't waste those times, because that is the time that you have. Right? And don't look at this person as a waste of time. You are wasting your time by not responding to the situation the right way. Yeah, you're like a doctor who says, "Why are all my patients sick?" They wouldn't be your patients if they weren't sick, right? Imagine if a doctor said, "Why are all my patients sick? I want healthy patients." Why are you a doctor then? These patients are wasting my time, right? That's what dealing with problems is your life. Dealing with problems is your life, right? And so don't waste your life by not dealing with the problems properly. May Allah forgive us and give us wisdom. Ya Rabbil Alameen. Okay. So he mentioned, okay, so this man got married, one of the ulama, this is about 200 years ago. He got married, and he went to his wife, but there was actually still, some of the girls were still like doing her hair and these kind of things. So he said, okay, I'll just wait a little bit. And so he started reading the book Kitab al-Irshad. Al-Irshad is one of the great late books in the Shafi school. And ولكنه استغرق في مطالعة ذلك الكتاب عدة ساعات إلى أذان الفجر. So basically he said, I'll just wait until she's finished and I'll start reading a book. And he's reading this book and he just kept reading the book until Fajr, right? This is on the night of his wedding. And there was his wife, and he didn't even look at her the whole night because he was busy with knowledge. Okay. I didn't really give the upshot there. Anyway, they mentions that whole story there. Okay. He's just going on to people who spent time with knowledge over other things. So one of the ulama, he never had a second wife and he never had a concubine. And then his wife said, "Yeah, I know, but his being busy with sacred knowledge is worse to me than him having 3 other wives." because the guy's always reading, always doing these things. That's not what I want to talk about here. I'm just skimming through to find some of these more of these stories here. Okay, so this is the student قال تلميذه الخاص الإمام الشعراني. So Imam al-Sha'rani, he says, كانت زوجة سيدي علي الخواص تهجره الثلاث أشهر وأكثر، وهجرته شهرا لكونه سقى دجاجها من ماء مكشوف، وغلط مرة فشرب من قلتها، فحكت موضع فمها بشفقة حتى تضع فمها موضع ما فيه، وسافر بها إلى الحجاز. Right. So he says, this great wali of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, Abu Ali al-Khawas, one of the great scholars, Ali al-Khawas, he said his wife avoided him for 3 whole months or more. And once she avoided him for a whole month because he gave the wrong kind of water to her chickens, right? Fed the cat the wrong food or whatever. Once he made a little mistake, and so he drank from one of her containers. Okay, he said, despite the fact that she would avoiding him 100% for all these months, once he traveled with her all the way from presumably Central Asia or Iraq, all the way to Medina and Mecca, when she was totally avoiding him. وسافر بها من مصر ورجع من غير أن يقع بينهما وبينه كلام. And he traveled all the way from Egypt all the way back home, perhaps in Iraq, without them even speaking once. ثم لما ماتت تبعها براية بيضاء أمام نعشها. And then when she died, he stood in front of her the janazah with a big white flag. مع أنه أخبرني في مرض موته بأن له 57 سنة من حين دخل بها ولم ينم معها ليلة واحدة وهما مصطلحان. Right. So he said that he'd been married to her for how many years? For 59 years. For 59 years, and he never ever slept next to her because she rejected him so much. So 59 years of rejection. And when she died, he stood in front of her grave with a big white flag saying, procession of this, right? So patience. And so then he used to say, وَكَانَ يُجِيبُ مَنْ يَقُولُ لَهُ طَلِّقْهَا. Whenever somebody used to say, why don't you just divorce her? قال الظلم من نفسي لا منها لأنها صورة عملي. He says the oppression is from me, not from her, because she is just a picture of my own deeds. Right. Okay, and so this is now mentioning from Imam Sha'rani. He says of the miracles that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given me, he says, وَمِمَّا أَنْعَمَ اللَّهُ تَبَارَكَ وَتَعَالَى بِهِ عَلَيَّ كَثْرَةُ الصَّبْرِ عَلَى زَوْجَتِي وَجَارِيَتِي إِذَا مَرِضَتْ. He says one of the blessings that Allah has given me is made me very, very patient with my wife and with my concubine when she gets sick. لا أستنكف من أن أمسح ما تحتها من قاذورات إذا عجزت عن الذهاب إلى الخلاء. He says, I'm not too proud to clean her private parts when she's unable to go to the bathroom. Right? So that's patience. Right? This person's so sick that they're not even able to go to the bathroom, so I have to clean their private parts because they can't go to the bathroom. Right? So this is marriage. What did we mention last week? He said when someone thinks about marriage, you say, what do you think about vomit? I don't know if you were there, but it was people have these ideas about what it means to be married. Say, oh, I'm going to have this handsome man. I'm going to have this beautiful woman. We're going to walk on the beach and hold hands and whatever. That's not marriage. Marriage is helping somebody. Your wife is throwing up in the airport, in the airplane, and you're supporting her and making her feel okay about it. She's like feeling really embarrassed. It's really awkward. She's feeling bad. And then you, as best as you can, you support her. And then when she says, you never help me, you say, I'm really sorry. That's marriage, right? That's akhlaq. That's what we're trying to do. We are not, it's not about, it's got nothing to do with the wedding day and this and that or anything else. That all goes away, right? That all goes away. This is the situation, right? And subhanAllah, many people, they wouldn't do this. This is what will happen. If their wife was in a situation like that, where they'd have to take them to the bathroom and clean them, then what would happen? The mother-in-law would say, don't do that, because basically your husband, if he does that, he won't like you anymore. So basically, your relationship is too weak for that. The relationship is too weak for that kind of behavior. Right? For many people, they say, don't do that. That it's not good for your relationship. It's because you're not that close. You don't have that akhlaq. Right? I remember my dad, he had kidney stones twice. So once he was in a plane, and the kidney stones, the pain makes you vomit. So he was sitting next to the sheikh, and the sheikh has a very, very sensitive nose. Like he can smell things he's very, very sensitive. And the sheikh sat next to him, didn't say anything. So the guy's vomiting and vomiting and vomiting right next to him the whole time. Right? So this is called akhlaq. This is called deen. Deen is not, oh, I made lots of money and I went on Hajj. Alhamdulillah, that's great. Right? But deen is that's not deen. Deen is when it gets hard, when it gets difficult, when it gets sensitive, right? And this is why somebody talks about akhlaq. So I don't believe you have akhlaq until you get married. Then you can talk about akhlaq. Right? That's the real test. Otherwise, it doesn't mean anything. One more story, inshallah. So he said, this is Al-Arif Sidi Ahmed ibn Ajiba. So he said his wife read about some of the righteous women of the past, and she wanted to do the same kind of things that they did. So she said, oh, alhamdulillah, I want to follow the way of the women of the past. So she read that some women of the past were very rude to their husbands, and he was very patient. So she said, I'm going to do the same thing, right? And this is what the story is telling me. Be rude to your husband, and he should be patient, right? So let's repeat. Who am I talking to? I'm talking to husbands. Is it halal to do any of this? No, right? We're not talking that it's okay for women to do that. We're saying, how should I react to this? Right? How should I react to this situation? So, as we already know, the respect that is due to a husband is greater than due to your father, right? So you ask the sister, you say, sister, would you talk to your husband like that? Would you talk to your father like that? She says, yeah, and more. Or we have a bigger problem, right? Right. And so it's a useful thing to do. A useful thing to do before getting married is to find out how this girl talks to her husband, talks to her father, right? So could she ever insult her father or hit her father or do these things? And she said, yeah, that happens sometimes, but she's a girl, right? So now that's what she's going to be doing, right? So what does it mean? It means who's wronged who? It means the father has wronged the daughter by not raising her, and then wronged society by putting a daughter into society who has no akhlaq, right? That's what it means. But the question is, how should you deal with people who have no akhlaq, right? It's irrelevant whether they have akhlaq or not. The point is, how should you deal with it? How can you benefit from the situation? How can you benefit from the situation? That's the point, right? And then there's many situations where it's not an issue she has no akhlaq. It's the issue she's a woman, and it's very hard being a woman. It's very difficult being a woman, right? So we have to understand that, right? And so anyway, is it a halal? So we hear, for example, Sayyidina Umar telling his wife, oh my God, you speak back to me? And she says, yeah, and the wives of the Prophet doesn't do it too. That doesn't make it halal. That means you as a man should be patient, because if it happened to Sayyidina Umar, it can happen to you. But that doesn't mean that what Sayyidina Umar's wife was doing was halal. They're two different things, right? What it means is, wake up. This is the actual reality of life. Things are not going to be perfect. Saad has a new person who's been working for a month, and is that there's 50,000 things that are wrong, right? And Saad is patient because that always happens. There's no such thing as a perfect employee. Because if you had a perfect employee, he'd open a new restaurant. That's what happens, right? That's how it is, right? Nobody's perfect. So expecting people to be perfect is ridiculous. However, for sisters, particularly the sisters listening, right, we have to fear Allah, right? So basically, your husband is your Kaaba. If you want to kick the Kaaba, if you want to throw things at the Kaaba, if you want to rip the cloth of the Kaaba and say the Kaaba's, you can do whatever you want, right? But for the test of the woman is the test that happened to Shaitan. What happened to him? He was told, do sujood to Adam. And he's like, why would I do sujood to Adam? Right? Why would I show respect to my husband when he's not worth respect? Right? So her logic is the same logic as the Shaitan. Right? Why would I obey my husband when he doesn't deserve to be obeyed? It's true, he doesn't deserve to be obeyed, but Allah is telling you to obey him. There's a difference. Right? Your father might not deserve respect, but Allah is telling you to respect your father. There's a difference. Right? He might be a bad person, but these are two different things. The Kaaba, does the Kaaba itself deserve our sujood? But Allah is telling us to do sujood to the Kaaba. Right? So it's very difficult, right? Have we all been in situations where it's very hard to show respect to our parents because they've wronged us, because they've hurt us, because they do things that are really wrong? It's difficult, right? And so this is the test that this woman is in. So we're not saying it's okay for a woman to show disrespect to her husband. We're saying how should the husband respond? How can you benefit from the situation? How can you benefit from this situation? But for her, as the Prophet ﷺ said, right, I've seen hell and I've seen that most of the people in hell are women. And we know that the Dajjal, when he comes, most of the followers are going to be women. That to such an extent that people will be tying their mothers and tying their sisters and tying their wives to the house because they'll be running to the Dajjal, right? So for a woman, fear Allah, right? You have to fear Allah. For her sake, it's great, it's nice to have somebody who forgives you, but maybe your husband's not going to forgive you. Maybe you're not going to have a good husband, right? Maybe on Judgment Day you said this and you did this, you said this and you did this. Maybe you're not going to be married to Ali al-Khawas, who respects you even though you haven't given them rights for 59 for whatever, 59 years or whatever it was. And so for a woman, the Prophet ﷺ, he said, if a man invites his wife to have intercourse, to be intimate, and she says no, then the angels curse her till the morning. Do you want to be cursed till the morning? No. But for a man, you should realize that's quite a hard thing to do, right? So it's like somebody saying, I want you to give all your money away, and if you don't give all your money away, you're going to be cursed by Allah. Okay, I understand that it'd be haram not to give all your money away, but could you understand it'd be hard for that person to do that act of worship? It's hard. So you're looking at somebody who's doing something quite difficult. It's quite hard to respect somebody when you're a woman. It's quite hard to respect somebody who isn't perfect. It's quite hard to respect somebody who you live with and makes mistakes on a regular basis. It's quite hard to be intimate with somebody that you don't want to be intimate with. That's quite difficult, right? So there's a job of the man, which is patience. The job of the woman, which is taqwa, fear Allah, and make dua. And then for the women as well, the key thing is focus. So what does a woman do? She has 50,000 things in her life. So then it all becomes too difficult. So then she prioritizes her work, for example. She prioritizes the kids. She prioritizes the in-laws. And then the marriage falls apart, right? Inshallah, I think on, I don't know when, on Saturday or Sunday, we'll have a class here, inshallah, on the family dynamic. And so, priority, not prioritizing things is a good way to destroy a marriage. It's a good way to destroy a marriage. But anyway, for a woman, she needs to focus. What is my goal today? I need to pray 5 times a day. I need to obey my husband. I need to be physically available for my husband, right? The Prophet said a woman cannot fast without the permission of her husband. Why? Because at any time, he might want to be intimate with me. He might want to. He might call and say, I'm coming home from work. I don't know. So I need to ask my husband, am I allowed to fast today? Right? So, that's quite difficult. You as a man, you're free. She's not free. The Prophet ﷺ, he said, marriage is a type of slavery. So be very careful who you marry your daughter to. So it's quite difficult being a slave, right? It'd be quite hard if, for example, I'm working for Saad and I'm saying I'm leaving and he says, you can't. I say, no, I'm leaving. He's like, no, you can't. I'm like, Saad, I'm leaving work. It's like, you can't leave work. That's quite hard to be in a situation where you can't leave your country, right? If you be in a situation where you can't leave your country, you're a former Saudi, right? I don't know how it is now, but in Saudi, for example, you go and work there and they don't let you leave the country until they sign you off. You say, no, no, I have American passport. I want to leave. You can't. That's tough. It's very difficult being a woman, and it's difficult being a wife. And so we have to be empathetic and understanding, and they have to know their role and fear Allah and make tawbah for the past and ask dua, Ya Allah, make me an obedient, submissive, respectful wife. But it's hard to do that. It's very, very hard. It's not easy. Okay. Okay, so he says, just one last story. He says, قد مر علي شيء من جفاهن وأذيتهن فصبرنا والحمد لله. من ذلك أني كنت ذات يوم في خلوتي في موضع عال فغضبت بعض النساء حركتها الغيرة فصعدت إلي ولبتتني وأنزلتني دردبة. I don't know what this means. So it says, she started strangling me with my clothes. And then what? ثم أخرجتني عن باب الدار وشدت الباب وزرقتها خلفي فبت خارج الدار. So I was praying, he said I was praying on a mountain place somewhere up the hill, and so she got so angry with me. She came up and she started strangling me with my own clothes, and she kicked me out of the place I was worshipping, and she locked the door. She locked the door, so I couldn't get back in. I had to spend the night outside. There we go. Now here's a question. So so there we go. This happened to Ibn Ajiba, right? He has a tafsir, Bahr al-Madid, a huge tafsir, right? So things happen. All right, this happens. These are ulama and fuqaha and whatever. And so what did he do? Did he start beating her up? Right? So, so the Prophet ﷺ, he gave permission to use physical force, right? But then the Prophet ﷺ told the people, said, it's true, you can use physical force to restrain your wife or to discipline your wife. But he said, those people who use physical force, they're not the best of you, right? It's like, again, mashallah, Sa'ad's business goes well and he starts opening up more branches and he has managers underneath him. He notices the bad managers are the people who fire people the most, right? The bad managers are the people who fire the people most. So the more punishment you give to your wife and the more times you divorce somebody, chances are you're just a bad manager, right? You're just a bad man. You're not a good husband, right? As opposed to a good husband, you find a way around, right? I'm the branch manager for Saad, and I keep firing people. It's like, Freed, you need to do a course on managing people and whatever, right? And so chances are you're a bad manager, right? And 50% of the marriage is probably your bad management, not that she has a problem, right? May Allah forgive us all and give us men patience and insight and mercy, and give women the Prophet ﷺ said, he's not of us. ليس منا من لم يرحم صغيرنا ويعرف حق كبيرنا. So he said, the Prophet ﷺ said, he's not of us. He's not a real Muslim who does not show mercy to the young and to the young or the small, the people who are inferior. So your wife is inferior to you, meaning she's under you, right? It's not like she's a dirt, but she's not on your level, right? وَيَعْرِفْ حَقَّ كَبِيرِنَا, and who knows the right of the people who are above them, your parents, your husband, etc. So you have to. The game is your respect to elders and mercy to youngers, respect to your superiors, right, like your husband, and mercy and kindness to your inferiors, right? That's how the game works. But when it is one way, or if it's neither, if it's only one of them, it doesn't work. One person is being nice, the other person is not being respectful. One person is demanding respect but not being merciful. It doesn't work. May Allah forgive us all. سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك أشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت نستغفرك ونتوب إليك.